Coming up on the inaugural show of ParaBrazil 16, David Eng and Team Canada make a grand entrance at the opening ceremonies. Cindy Ouellet and Canada's women's wheelchair basketball team take on Great Britain on day one. And we discuss the Russian fallout from their Paralympic ban. We also have a special look at para-canoeist Erica Scarff and much, much more. Welcome to ParaBrazil 16, Centennial College's daily show on the 2016 Summer Paralympic Games. I'm Phil Jones, live from our ParaBrazil broadcast headquarters, along with Kurt McGilvery.
Hey, thanks, Phil. Centennial College is celebrating their 50th anniversary this year by offering sports journalism students the opportunity to cover the Paralympics as part of a historic and innovative initiative. We've done a lot of incredible things in this program, but nothing quite to like this scale.
That's true. The Paralympics kicked off last night with the opening ceremonies featuring over 4,000 athletes from more than 160 countries, competing in 526 events in 22 different sports over the next 2 weeks. Wheelchair basketball veteran David Eng was selected to be Canada's flag bearer. The four-time Paralympian was excited to accept the honor.
Our flag bearer for the Rio 2016 Canadian Paralympic team from Montreal, Quebec, David Eng.
I would like to thank Wheelchair Basketball Canada for the nomination and also the selection, the committee selection that selected me to be able to be a flag bearer. I think it's one of the highest honor that an athlete could get. I remember in 2004 in my first Paralympics, the flag bearer was Chantal Benoit from the Canadian wheelchair basketball female team, women's team, and I remember seeing her going with the flag, and right there I saw that it was like one of the highest honor that an athlete could get, and especially for Canada. And after I got the chance in Beijing to see a chef de mission, Chantal Petitclerc, do it, and my good buddy Benoit Ouellet doing at the closing ceremony in London. And every single time I was like, wow, what an honor. And I can't believe that today, well, I'm sitting in front of everybody and I have the chance to be able to do that accomplishment.
A bit more info on Canada's flag bearer. Three-time Paralympian, 2 golds, 1 silver, team captain since 2007, CWSA Male Athlete of the Year in 2009. Father is a 5th-degree black belt, Kurt.
Oh, I certainly wouldn't fight him.
I wouldn't fight him either, and named one of the sexiest Paralympians by MSN.com, rumored to have helped him meet his wife.
Eng and his fellow Canadian athletes were on hand for the opening ceremonies, which took place last night in Rio's Maracana Stadium. Despite the weather's best attempt to rain on everyone's parade, the 2016 Paralympics got underway in spectacular fashion, featuring multiple firework displays, wheelchair BMX jumps, those are great, and of course the lighting of the Paralympic flame. Here's a closer look at some of the festivities.
Canada.
Canada. It now gives me great pleasure to invite Michel Temer, President of Brazil, to officially open the Rio 2016 Paralympic Games.
Os Jogos Paralímpicos Rio 2016.
Well, Kurt, those opening ceremonies look spectacular.
Yeah, they were quite the festivities.
Indeed, and we have our very own Andrew Bottomley live from Rio. Bottomley is part of the Centennial College Graduate Sports Journalism Program. Andrew, how are you today?
Hey, Phil. Hey, Kurt. Thanks for having me on.
Not a problem. You're on a bus right now on your way to wheelchair basketball?
I am getting ready for the Canada-Spain opening match in men's wheelchair basketball.
Very exciting. Now, we heard you were at the opening ceremonies last night. Andrew, what was your favorite part of witnessing that live?
Oh, well, there were a lot to pick from. I mean, it started off with Aaron Wheels taking what they call mega ramp, which is basically a giant ramp from the top of the Maracana Stadium all the way to the bottom, and he launched off it through fireworks. But I'd have to say my favorite part was just the overwhelming support of the Brazilian crowd. I mean, just hearing the roar after the Canadians were announced, it was spectacular. And you could kind of expect it with the other South American countries, Argentina, Peru, like it was loud in there. And then even Jamaica had maybe 6 or 7 athletes, and there was a loud cheer from the Brazilian crowd. But I guess the cherry on top of the cake was probably when the actual Team Brazil came out. It was loud, and it was loud for a long time. It was absolutely spectacular. At one point, the stadium became a swimming pool, and there was a projection of a para-swimmer going across. When the teams were actually coming out, each country would have a puzzle piece with their country name on it. And as they assembled the pieces on the floor, it formed a heart, and it was a heart made up of all the athletes' faces. So it was really cool. At the end, the whole crowd was clapping as if to simulate a heartbeat, and it was really cool to see.
Right, so we'll get you out of here on this. We've had a chance to interview quite a few Canadian athletes over the past few months now, especially including David Eng, Canada's flag bearer. What was it like seeing such a large Canadian contingent come out to be greeted to such cheers?
It was a surreal moment. It was amazing just to see the actual support that these Brazilians had for the Canadians, and to see the looks on the faces of these athletes as they came out. You could tell they were totally excited to be there, totally happy that they're making their dreams come true. It was amazing.
Great. Andrew, we've seen some photos back here at headquarters of our coordinator, the man on the scene, Malcolm Kelly, walking around in dress shoes, socks, and shorts. What the crew back here wants to know is, was Malcolm Kelly able to find some running shoes?
Well, it wasn't the fact that he didn't have running shoes. I mean, he I guess we went to go to Sugarloaf Mountain, and he only brought his dress shoes for
That's a mistake.
whatever reason. That's between Malcolm Kelly and Malcolm Kelly. But since then, I have seen him found his running shoes. However, he has not yet added socks with running shoes, and they are always untied. But that is the current update with Malcolm Kelly and the shoes.
Excellent, Andrew. Well, we look forward to more updates throughout the games. Enjoy the event you're going to today, and thanks so much for checking in with us this afternoon.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
As the wheelchair basketball competition gets underway today, Patrick Anderson, a Canadian legend in the sport, has represented Canada at 4 Paralympics. With so much experience, he had some words of wisdom for the 2016 contingent.
I think it's a balance when you go to the Paralympics between having fun and staying focused. Usain Bolt seems like a good example of somebody who's able to perform in a moment, but also have a good time. And I think coaches can err on the side of we're not on vacation. We're here to focus, but you cut off a big source of sort of joy and enthusiasm, potentially, which potentially you can channel towards good performances down there. And you get in such a unique environment with all these athletes and people and cultures and everything. It's really fun. It's exciting. So I'd encourage them to just get out there and meet some people, make some new friends from other countries. And they put a lot of work in, and so you just got to kind of trust the work that you put in. There's a few moments in my career where I failed to take the shot that I should have taken, and because I was afraid to miss it. And that's the last thing you want to do, is to go home thinking, what if I had taken it?
Day 1 of the Paralympic Games from Rio, women's wheelchair basketball. Canada taking on Great Britain. First quarter, Canada down 4 early, and it's Cindy Ouellet, the Hornet.
She's buzzing.
Getting Canada's first points of the tourney. Later in the first quarter, Canada is now up by 2, and it's Janet McLaughlin from North Vancouver with a pull-up. It's good, putting Canada up by 4. McLaughlin and Ouellet combining for all but 2 of Canada's first half points. Here they connect again. It's McLaughlin long past Ouellet who finishes. Canada ended the first half with a 1-point lead, but would start to pull away. Fast forwarding to the end of the fourth quarter, final seconds ticking down, and Ouellet and McLaughlin playing keep away, much like they did the rest of the game. Little hot potato as Canada wins their opener 43-36. McLaughlin leading all scorers with 21 points and 22 rebounds. Veteran Tracy Ferguson from Toronto, competing in her 6th Paralympics, had no problem with letting her younger teammates step up.
I think we all lead in different ways, and so one of the things I bring to this team is that experience and a bit of a calming voice, and just keeping people, preparing them for what's to come, and also just helping them with any questions they have and showing them the ropes. But I think, the rookies are doing a great job, and this team has really come together at the right time. I'm really excited.
During qualifying heats for the women's T53 100-meter wheelchair race, Canadian Alana Dupont is in lane 6 looking to advance to the finals. She would come in 4th, but the real story was China's Li Huang looking to break her own record of 16.22 seconds.
She's going to win this, but how fast does she want to go? Sammy Kinghorn in 2nd place for Britain, Kurt in 3rd. For Turkey, Huang Lisha's not easing up. 16.20, I make that a world record. How about that in the opening morning? An unbelievable push.
Over our ParaBrazil 2016 coverage, we will be checking in with our field correspondents for a look at some of Canada's athletes and how they're doing in their events. Today, we go to Kieran Breen at the Aquatic Centre with a recap and preview of Day 1 action in the pool.
I'm Kieran Breen here live at the Aquatic Stadium at the 2016 Paralympics in Rio. We've just wrapped up the morning session of Day 1 in the pool, and it's been a good one for Team Canada. 3 Canadians have qualified for finals in tonight's session. Gordy Mickey has qualified in the S14 100-meter backstroke. Abby Tripp, just 15 years old, will be swimming in tonight's S8 400-meter freestyle. And James LaRue, a bit of a surprise package. His only event tonight, his only event at these games, he'll be in tonight's final in the SB9 100-meter breaststroke. I just spoke briefly to the Canadian swimming coach, Craig McCord. He's very satisfied with today's swims. For a lot of these athletes, it's a warm-up for some of their stronger events later in the week, and to have 3 Canadians in tonight's finals, he was happy with that. He doesn't expect any of them to medal, but again, he's delighted with their swims, and Day 1 has got off to a great start for Team Canada in the pool. Reporting here in Rio, I'm Kieran Breen.
As a young girl, Mississauga's Erica Scarff dreamt of representing Canada one day in the Olympics as a gymnast. But when she was 12 years old, a battle with cancer resulted in the loss of her leg. But instead of giving up on her athletic ambitions, she learned a new sport and is now one of Canada's top para-canoeists.
My name is Erica Scarff. I compete in the sport of para-canoe, and I am a Canadian Paralympian.
The 20-year-old will represent Canada in para-canoe as the sport makes its Paralympic Games debut this summer in Rio. Born in Mississauga, Erica grew up playing sports like most kids in Canada and became heavily involved in gymnastics. At the age of 12, Erica's life took an unexpected turn.
I was training and I was running towards the vault, and I heard my leg pop, so I knew something was going wrong, and I was brought to the hospital and I found out my leg was broken, and then eventually I found out it was broken because there was a tumor in my leg, and then eventually I found out that the tumor was cancer. So from there I had a year of chemotherapy and I had my leg amputated.
Erica was diagnosed with osteosarcoma, the same form of bone cancer Terry Fox suffered through during his Marathon of Hope cross-country run in 1980. She instantly drew a connection with Terry Fox.
Being an athlete myself, I could really relate to his desire to accomplish helping people through sports and through running. So yeah, and his run of hope, like for many other Canadians, it really inspired me. And it was just really good to see that you know, someone who's been through something so terrible could work really hard physically and also just inspire so many people and help so many other people.
In 2009, her family hosted Erica's Wish, an annual fundraising run to celebrate her 13th birthday and last round of chemo treatment.
The event was a 10K and a 5K and a 1K run and walk. We also used it to raise money for the Canadian Cancer Society. So we ran that for 5 years, and in 2014, just getting so busy with other things and with especially paddling, we stopped. But over those years, we raised a lot of money, and I hope we helped a lot of people.
Now that para-canoe is an official event in the Paralympics, she looks to be a pioneer and help continue with the growth in the sport, wearing the maple leaf on her chest proudly.
I'm going to be around in the sport for a while, so to be a part of the first group going through and to see how the sport is going to grow and evolve and be a part of that, like pushing the times to make it more competitive and possibly being a part of you know, advocating for other athletes in our sport. It's going to be really exciting. Just stepping out there with Maple Leaf and representing our beautiful country is just always such an honor, and to do it at the Paralympics is just going to be incredible.
Well, this Paralympics will be without one of its most dominant teams, as last month the IPC banned the entire Russian team after the McLaren report alleged state-sponsored doping during the 2014 Games in Sochi. And that controversy bled into the opening ceremonies with a member of the Belarus delegation carrying a Russian flag in protest. The protester was not an athlete, but was in fact a director of sport and was stripped of his accreditation. The unanimous decision to ban the Russians was surprising, considering the IOC did not impose as harsh a penalty on the Russian Olympic team. Only a third of the Russian athletes were banned, while all 267 para-athletes were affected by the IPC's decision. Russia ranked first in total medal count at the 2014 Winter Paralympic Games in Sochi, with 80 total medals, including 30 golds, more than triple than the second-place team. Joining us to discuss the IPC's controversial decision is Mark Stanyush, who has been following the situation quite closely. Mark, why do you think the IPC's decision was so different than their Olympic counterparts?
I think the IPC would point to the amount of time that there was between the McLaren report going public and the event taking place. As where the Olympics, there was only a few short days before the event were to start. The Paralympics, there was more time, so the IPC points to the fact that that added time gave them what they needed to make such a harsh decision. Some might say that there was a financial aspect to it, as in losing the Russians in the Olympics would there would be a lot of lost dollars from the television deals and such, where the Paralympics, the financial pie just isn't as big.
Mark, what effect will Russia's absence have on the Games?
Well, we already discussed their success at the Sochi Games. Their success at the London Games was similar. They ranked third in total, so what we're going to face is one of the powerhouses in Paralympics no longer competing. And it's unfortunate for the athletes who've trained for these past 4 years to go against the world's best, and they've somewhat been robbed of that opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Now, what would you say to those who see this decision as sort of a human rights violation?
I could see the optics of it and how someone could construe the fact that the able-bodied athletes had, relatively a slap on the wrist when compared to the Paralympic athletes who got this blanket ban. It's important to remember, though, that the IOC and the IPC, though they do cross paths as often when working together in these type of events, they are independent, and it's not absurd to believe that two independent organizations could come to a different conclusion with the same information.
Excellent, very informative. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mark. Now we'll take a look inside and a look at the medals that will be awarded to the Paralympians and the Rio medals that have one real unique feature. Not only do they have Braille for visually impaired athletes, but they're also filled with small stones, so each color has a unique sound when shaken, so you can easily distinguish between gold, silver, and bronze. The Paris 16 marketing group called the unique feature the Sounds of Victory.
So I'm here with some of the designers of the Paralympic medals, and this time these medals do something very interesting. They've always, or for a long time, they've had Braille on them, but have a listen to this. So that's the gold medal, and Del Casio, if you could explain, there are some little spheres of metal in there, is that correct?
Correct. We have a metal ring, and inside of it we have small spheres, metallic spheres, and when we shake we have this different sound.
And really cool, there's actually a different sound between the three different medals. So the bronze medal, for example, if we have a listen to that, so it's a sort of a slightly smaller sound going up to a slightly bigger sound on the silver medal, and then we heard the gold one just now. So that's because there are different numbers of little spheres inside, right? And so the idea of this was, we talked about the sound of victory just now. The idea was that that athletes who are partially sighted or who can't see, they can hear it and they can distinguish the difference between the two.
In the spirit of the uniqueness of the Paralympics, each day we are going to introduce you to an event you might not be familiar with. One of the premier sports as unique as it gets. That sport is goalball. Goalball has no Olympic equivalent and is designed to be exclusive to visually impaired athletes. It is a simple game to learn, but it can take years to master. Goalball is a kind of hybrid of basketball and soccer. It is played on a standard-sized volleyball court with 2 nets on either end. The court has tactile lines throughout to help the players orientate themselves. And the ball, which is roughly the size of a basketball, has bells inside to aid the player's ability to predict where the ball is going. Each team has 6 players, but only 3 are allowed on the court at a time. Goals are scored by rolling or bouncing the ball into the opposing net. The history of goalball goes back over 70 years. The game was created to help rehabilitate World War II vets who had suffered visual impairments. The Canadian women's team has been particularly successful with 5 Paralympic Games medals, including back-to-back gold in 2000 and 2004, while the men have only 1 career Paralympic medal, the silver, in 1996.
Well, that's all the time we have tonight. We saw some great action on day 1. Phil, anything you're looking forward to tonight and or tomorrow?
100%. I can't wait for the Canadians' men's wheelchair basketball game tonight, taking place against Spain. David Eng and the boys are in tough against the Spaniards, who are ranked 4th in the world. But Canada are the defending Paralympic champions, so something's got to give. We'll have all the highlights for you tomorrow.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge test for Canada. They're breaking in a couple new players tonight. Hopefully they can get the job done. But thank you very much for joining us on our inaugural ParaBrazil 2016 show. Tune in tomorrow for more coverage of this year's Paralympics. I'm Kurt McGilvery, that's Phil Jones, and we will see you tomorrow night.
Canada.
Canada.